In Colombia, authorities reported the first murder of a social leader in 2023 in the department of Nariño. In Peru, acts of repression continue against demonstrators demanding the release of former President Pedro Castillo and the convening of a Constituent Assembly. In the United Kingdom, railway workers go on strike for 48 hours to demand higher wages. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Colombia, the murder of a new social leader in the department of Nariño was announced on Tuesday, marking the first of the year 2023. According to the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace, for its acronym in Spanish, INDEPAZ, the victim, identified as José Taicus Pascal, 16 years old, was attacked on January the 2nd by a known armed man when he was at a family meeting in the city of Tumaco. Taicus was a youth leader of the Awa people and an indigenous guard of the Peñaliza Gran Rosario Reservation. According to data from INDEPAZ, this is the first homicide against a social leader so far in 2023, while 1,410 leaders have been killed since the signing of the peace accords in 2016. In Venezuela, social movements of the 23 de Enero community in Caracas presented a mural to commemorate the Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Popular organizations of the area held a ceremony for the presentation of the mural, highlighting the anti-imperialist struggle of Soleimani and the Iranian people. During the event, the ambassador of the Islamic Republic to Venezuela was present, who expressed his gratitude for the event and reaffirmed the bilateral ties between the Iranian and Venezuelan people. In this sense, participants demanded that Washington cease the use of terrorism in its favor, violating the human rights of the peoples.
Today's event, more than anything else, is solidarity and unity among the peoples, to guarantee peace, tranquility, and defend the rights of the peoples in the face of the empire.
The people of Bolívar, of Commander Hugo Chavez, we extend a space of solidarity to the Iranian people since they lost a great general. We fought against ISIS, against terrorism in the whole Middle East. We, from Bolívar's homeland, vindicate General Soleimani with loyalty and much solidarity for the Iranian people.
In Ecuador, violence and disputes between criminal gangs associated with drug trafficking led to the death of 192 minors in 2022. According to national police statistics, most of the children were 12 to 18 years old. This is more than twice the figure for 2021, when 92 children and adolescents died, and also exceeds the 57 minors killed in 2020. Local media pointed out that in 2022, over 195,000 minors dropped out of school, mostly age 16 and 17, because it is at the age that they are recruited by drug gangs. This represents 34% of the students nationwide. In El Salvador, Defense Minister Vice Admiral René Francis Merino announced on national television that the war against gangs will continue during 2023 until people's tranquility is guaranteed. Merino said that military fences will be set up to extract gang members and protect the population in all places where it may be necessary. The official also said that 2022 was the safest year in the country's history, with 169 days without homicides and a homicide rate of less than 8 per 100,000 inhabitants. Authorities said the progress made in terms of security has been enabled by the Territorial Control Plan, which went into effect 1 month after the inauguration of President Nayib Bukele on June 1st, 2019, as well as to the implementation of the state of exception decreed by the Assembly on March 27th, 2022. The Presidency of the Republic said on social media that their aim is for 2023 to surpass 2022 as the safest year in history. On Tuesday in Bolivia, the Ombudsman's office has called for peace in the face of the constant protests in the city of Santa Cruz de la Sierra that have followed the imprisonment of Governor Luis Fernando Camacho. Sheila Gomez, the delegate of the governmental institution, said 16 criminal cases are under investigation regarding the taking of institutions such as airports, setting public buildings on fire, together with aggressions against journalists. She also denounced the violation of the rights of civil servants who had their homes burned or had chemicals thrown at them. The representative of the Ombudsman's office urged all sectors to stop aggressiveness and violence in view of the confrontations between violent sectors and the law enforcement. The Brazilian government announced President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva's first international tour for January 2023. The South American nation's foreign minister, Mauro Vieira, explained that the new president will make his first trips to Argentina and Uruguay, while he is expected to travel to the United States and China to boost bilateral relations. During his first official Argentina, two nations. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Peru, acts of repression continue against demonstrators demanding the release of the former president Pedro Castillo and the convening of a constituent assembly. Conservative political sectors are holding this Tuesday a march called March for Peace in several cities of the country and will have the support of the national police. Meanwhile, social movements denounce that state forces violently attacked demonstrators protesting against Dina Boluarte on Monday at Plaza Manco Capac in the district of La Victoria. They also continue to demand Boluarte's resignation and the release of the former president Pedro Castillo.
Today, the right wing is a group of power that has programmed the March for Peace, and I hope for peace. What peace are we showing? What peace do we want to spread when the attempts to evict us continue? We are in a public place. We are in a public square. The only thing we're doing, brothers, is to demand our rights. We do not have many demands. Do you know why they're doing it? Because tomorrow, starting at midnight, the national strike will begin here in Peru, and we want to wait for our brothers here in the Manco Capac Square.
In Peru, Cardinal Pedro Barreto called on the authorities and civil society to foster dialogue and respect for people's rights in order to overcome confrontations. The vice president of the Peruvian Episcopal Conference called for dialogue to overcome the current social crisis. He also pointed out that most people want peace and justice for the loss of lives during the demonstrations. In this sense, Barreto considered the situation in the country to be critical. This while various political and citizen organizations announced the resumption of protests on Wednesday, January the 4th. On Tuesday, Brazil held the burial ceremony of former football star Edson Arantes do Nascimento, better known as King Pelé. Pelé's remains now rest in the memorial of Santos City's ecumenical necropolis. They were transported there in a funeral procession escorted by public force officers. The carriage that previously crossed the entire city to take the former sportsman to his final resting place was also accompanied by thousands of people who crowded the streets to say farewell to the former Brazilian star who died last Thursday at the age of 82. Our correspondent Ignacio Lemus gives us more details.
Edson Arantes do Nascimento was given a final farewell at Santos Stadium by fans, his family, friends, art and political personalities. President Lula da Silva, on his first government agenda outside of Brazil, came to pay his last respects to one of the most popular figures on the planet.
Pelé represents soccer. Without Pelé, soccer would be different and our life here at Santos would be different.
After the wake, a crowd accompanied Pelé through the streets of Santos.
Everything we do today will not be enough. It will never be enough. He's the king of the century, the soccer of the century, who created the place of the century. He is the imitation of the century.
From balconies, terraces, and windows came applause for the star.
Of course it is very sad, but it is very exciting to be here and to be able to verify, to see the Brazilian people, everybody, the children. I spent the whole night in the street.
Gilson moved from Minas Gerais to Santos to accompany his son in his dream of becoming a soccer player, following the same geographical route as Pelé and his family.
My son came to play for Santos. The whole family came. We are here very happy. God will bless him. We are very pleased and hope that he will also be a great player.
Those who saw Pelé live do not doubt saying that he was the best in history. For the youngest, he is also a reference.
Without Pelé, Santos would be much less than what it is, and for me, Pelé was the best player in history.
The passion for Pelé has no borders.
I am Colombian. I am here today on my birthday, January the 3rd, and I am burying my idol.
The most emotional moment of the procession was the arrival at the house of Doña Celeste, Pelé's mother.
This place, this corner of the city, is known as the corner of Pelé's son and Pelé's mother, Doña Celeste, who is 100 years old.
At the end of the walk, Pelé's remains were buried during a family ceremony at the Necropolis Ecumenica Memorial. Since 1940, the history of the greatest sportsman that humanity ever saw in the last century travels through Santos and up to infinity.
Ignacio Lemus y Julia Nassif para TeleSUR.
Now we move on to other topics. In the United Kingdom, tens of thousands of rail workers stage a fresh round of strikes that will disrupt services all week. Commuters returning to work on Tuesday after the Christmas break were advised not to travel. Around half of the UK's railway lines are closed and only 1/5 of services are running amid a long-running dispute over pay and working conditions to face the country's rising inflation following sanctions against Moscow for its special military operation in Ukraine. Members of the RMT were striking on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, while drivers at the ASLEF union will strike on Thursday. Many places, including most of Scotland and Wales, have no train services.
What we need to hear now from the government is exactly what it is they're going to propose to us. At the moment, they got themselves into a position before Christmas where we were making progress with the train operating companies. And on one Sunday afternoon before a set of strike action, they decided to torpedo those talks by putting in conditions in the documentation that they know that we and the other unions can never accept.
The demands should be looked at, and I think it is for the pay, you know. So the way everything is going expensive, you know, their wages should be looked at as well.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. This Tuesday, 2 helicopters collide, leaving 4 dead on Australia's Gold Coast. The accident occurred around 2 o'clock local time on a sandbank near the Australian tourist hotspots. One of the helicopters was taking a tourist joy flight along Queensland's scenic Gold Coast with 6 people on board when its rotor blades smashed into the cockpit of the other helicopter that was coming into land with 7 people on board. Between the fatalities were a British couple and one of the pilots.
At this stage, we've got 4 people who have tragically lost their lives. Another 3 are in a very serious condition in hospital. The second helicopter coming into land, now that has remarkably managed to land upright, and considering the damage that was done to the front left-hand section of that helicopter where the pilot was sitting, that's been a remarkable achievement. So whilst it has been very tragic that 4 people have lost their lives and many families are mourning this morning, we could have had a far worse situation here, and the fact that that one helicopter has managed to land has been quite remarkable.
And on Tuesday, in a ceremony, 5 countries have been elected to serve as non-permanent members in the United Nations Security Council. In this ceremony, Japan, Malta, Switzerland, Mozambique and Ecuador are responsible body for the maintenance of global peace and security beginning this January 2023. The Security Council of the UN is composed of 15 members, and these 5 countries have been elected following a vote in the General Assembly this Thursday to serve at the Council for a period of 2 years. And the Japanese government is willing to offer up to 1 million yen to families moving from the Tokyo metropolitan area as part of efforts to reduce the concentration of population in the Japanese capital. The increase of up to 700,000 yen per child as a new incentive will be in addition to the maximum 3 million yen in basic financial aid already granted to families relocating. The new rule will be implemented in the fiscal year beginning in April. Those residing in one of the 23 Tokyo wards that make up the core metropolitan area will be eligible, while the host municipalities must be located outside the metropolitan and surrounding areas. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.